Title of my talk is Everyone Counts, Everyone Matters. Everybody counts, everybody matters. And I was listening to a podcast by Tara Brach. Anybody ever listen? Yeah, Tara Brach, I love her. She's a clinical psychologist. She wrote Radical Acceptance. What she says is that we have to come out of this trance of unworthiness and just accept ourselves, right? She's a Buddhist. And what she does is she believes in emotional healing so that we can do our spiritual awakening. So on her podcast, she was telling a story about a woman who had a brain injury and would just suddenly fall down. And people would just rush over to her and just hurry up and just pick her up. And what this woman expressed is that I think they do that because it makes them feel uncomfortable to see a grown person fall to the floor. And what Tara Brach said, and what we know, is that we are so quick to go fix, right? Just so quick to go fix something when that's not what the person even wants. What she said is what she wants is somebody to come and just sit on the ground with her. Just sit with her so she can come back to herself. And that just opened my heart, right? Because that is what we do in community. It's not ours to go and immediately fix something or immediately be there. We think that's what is ours to do, but when we're doing that, honestly, we're doing it from our own fear, our own discomfort. Ours is just to sit with somebody. Just to sit and say, what do you need in this moment? How can I help you? How can I support you? And sometimes it's just being in the silence, right? And we even think it's offering a tissue. But you know what? It isn't offering a tissue, because you know what happens when you offer somebody a tissue? They stop crying. We want to give help, right? We want to help. We think that's what the help is. That's not the help. The help is just to sit together. So that's what I want to talk about this morning, spiritual community, because that is what we're doing. We are building spiritual community. And it's a verb, right? We're creating it. We're always in the process of becoming it. It's not this one static thing. Static, right? That means, yeah, thank you. Making sure it's not this one static thing. We're in that constant movement of creating and welcoming and being. So that's what I want to talk about. And I want to start with Charles Fillmore, because he created community. We would not be here if it were not for the community he created. And then I want to talk about how Jesus created community, because the foundation for unity is reading the Bible metaphysically and seeing Jesus as an elder brother, way shower, and teacher. And then I want to share with y'all our new members and our new member orientation and what they shared about what spiritual path is in spiritual community. And then at the end, we will have our new member ceremony. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning. Charles Fillmore, as I said last week, was someone who came to faith through logic and reason. Unlike Myrtle, who came to it just this intuitive knowing, this intuitive belief, this just blind faith. It absolutely worked for her. She heard a lecture and she was like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to do that. I believe that. Charles Fillmore was a little bit slower to that. He needed the logic and the reason. And my point about that also was that for him, it was about, and for both of them, it was about there's this one truth. That one truth is God. We all have access to that, and it's the indwelling of us. It's the truth of us. We are made in the image and the likeness after. We have those attributes, and ours is to grow them. So they created community first just through prayer. Just through prayer. People were astounded by her recovery, so they would come to her and ask her how she did it, ask her about prayer, and she would write letters. Everybody counts, everybody matters, right? She would write letters of healing. And one of the ways that they would get together is they never intended to have a church. I've said that before, right? It was not intended as a church. It was intended as you said, as a study group. So people would go to their churches, and then after church, wherever they went, they would come afterwards and they would meet. Because for them, it was practicing it. It was demonstrating it. It was expressing. It was manifesting it. And coming together in community to do that. Then they started publishing a magazine. And at first, I think it had many different names, but one of the early names was called Thought. Why would it be called Thought? Because that's what we're always doing, right? Using our thought to create. Because one of the principles is thoughts, what is it? What do they do?
After their own time.
Exactly. So we're always aware of our thought and where our thought is. Always aware that we can choose a higher thought. Choose a new thought, right? That supports us and encourages us, sustains us. So one of the early things you've heard us to say that silent unity, after you say your prayers, after we have your prayers, we send them to silent unity because they pray, right? You can call silent unity and they'll pray for you. In the early days, it was called Society of Silent Help, I believe. Let me make sure that's what it was called. Yes, Society of Silent Help. And I had a point, y'all. Let me find it. I want to read it to y'all. I really do need to write page numbers on here. I should do that more often. So Society for Silent Help. And it was a magazine, and they would publish it once a month. And this is what was so beautiful to me. So the community wasn't just here, right? It was through this magazine. Just like us, creating community with Facebook people. It's the same thing. So in this magazine, they would have a prayer. And they would say to people, pray this prayer at 10 p.m. And everyone at 10 p.m. who got that magazine and was willing would say this prayer together. Here's an example of one of the prayers that was said April 15th through May 15th in 1890. God is all goodness and everywhere present. He is the loving Father, and I am his child and have all his attributes of life, love, truth, and intelligence. In him is all health, strength, wisdom, and harmony, and as his child, all these become mine by a recognition of the truth that God is all. Every day, if you'd received that, you would say that at 10 p.m., and that was your community, knowing that you're all praying that at the same time. Isn't that beautiful? And that has power. So, and about the Society of Silent Help, they said, the Society of Silent Help is open to everyone. If you are sick, troubled, or unhappy from any cause whatever, sit in the silence with us every night. And for a short time, forget all your external thoughts. Give yourself up to the Spirit within it for but a little while, and we assure you your heart will be lighter at the end of the days, if not in less time. Isn't that beautiful? So what they were is they were pioneers, really and truly. They were pioneers of mind and spirit. And unity, because of that, we are not about dogma and creed. Yes, we have teachings, but it's a movement, and it's a movement of understanding that our consciousness changes, our understanding of God changes, and we come together to share what our concepts of God are, to share our demonstrations, to share our love with one another. And that's one of the things, that's why I love unity. It just resonates with me and with my practice. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is Jesus. And the thing about Jesus is that making community was inherent to his ministry. It was absolutely inherent. Jesus was not doing these teachings alone, right? He had disciples. He had 12 disciples. And not only that, but you know that women were a huge part of his ministry. Actually, women were funding the ministry. Women were feeding the men. They were housing the men so that they could do their work. So they were a foundational part of it. And the reason that when we think about Jesus having disciples, think about it. So when you have a community, you can practice love with one another, right? You can practice forgiveness with one another. Because had he just been alone, the teaching just would have been theoretical, right? You need people to do it together with. As we are here together, we need one another to practice love. We need one another to practice forgiveness. Let's say that again. We need one another to practice forgiveness. Right?
Yes.
Sometimes it's hard. But guess what? Look around. We're going to have to forgive one another. We will. We will, because here's the thing. Where 2 or 3 or more are gathered, and there will be conflict, right? And the conflict is good. It helps us grow. In our board, who we know on our board members, we have conflict. I know, we do. But I like to think, I hope I'm not alone here, we walk through it beautifully. Thank you, y'all, for saying that. Thank y'all for doing that with me. We walk through it beautifully. There will be conflict, and it is how we grow. And the beautiful thing about our board members and all of us, it's always for the highest good for everyone. Not just for one, for everyone, for the entire community. Highest good. I can't tell you how often I'm on the phone with our board president, and we're like, highest good, highest good. Highest good, highest good. Always. And it takes you back to center, right? Highest good. I can't contain myself. I'm already starting. So Jesus, what I want to say this. I want to say this. By choosing the 12 disciples, he acknowledged our need for community. We grow, we receive strength from mutual encouragement, support, and sharpening. People followed him, right? The disciples endured the Sea of Galilee, the storm on the Galilee. They endured things with him together. They came together to be together in the hard times and in the good times. And imagine his crucifixion, right? Good thing there was a community of people. Imagine had you been there alone. It was their teacher, their beloved. They had a community to support one another. And that's what we are today. We're a community. We always are that. We need that. So in our new member orientation, we talked about Unity's 5 principles. We reflected on the teachings. And what I asked people on the very first day, what is a spiritual path? And I took notes and I wrote it on the board that you'll see in the back. What is a spiritual path? And I want you to hear what people said. They said a spiritual path is where we grow in relationship to God and a relationship to others. The spiritual path is a place of belonging and loving people where they are. A spiritual path is supportive, inspirational, and encouraging. A spiritual path is a search for truth and clarity. Rich said that, clarity. I remember that. And then I said, what's a spiritual community? A place where we know we belong. It feels like coming home. We practice spiritual teachings that are positive, inspiring, encouraging, and supportive. We have opportunities to practice love and see what love looks like. We belong to one another. We are in service to one another. So here's what I love about that. Do you notice the similarities between spiritual path and spiritual community? It's one and the same, right? We grow together. We need one another.